Just give the average Joe an insight of what's it like playing at this level.
Friday night's always been a personal favourite of mine. You've got the long weekend. Everyone's just wanting that release, that stimulation, just to watch a macabre sport of gladiatorial confrontation. And you feed off that as athletes. Like, you love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Hello and welcome to another Drop to Kickoff podcast. I'm back. And today I'm just here with Nathan. Nick W is in Japan, lucky bugger. And I think this is probably the first pod he's missed, to be honest, in 5 years. This man loves podcasting. So today it's going to be a quick one. Obviously, the squad came out early today, and of course the Olympics. So Nathan and I will be chatting about that, as well as a special guest later on. Yes, we have a very special guest who may or may not be my boss. Nathan, so you were live blogging these games before we get into them. How do you feel? How are you pulling up?
I feel like shit. As I said, this is I've sort of done overseas trips and everything else. This is the most jet lag I've felt comfortably, just from the time zones being horrific and the results that we'll get into not helping my mood.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're paid for it. But
it's true. That's true.
I just can't imagine, having to stay up all night fighting those evils and also, having to bear those results.
Yeah, it's a lot of head noise that goes into this sort of stuff. But as you said, it's a privileged position to be in still. But yeah, it's a roller coaster of emotions over this past sort of 6-7 days with how both the men's and women's sides went.
Yeah, man, crazy. So I guess we should probably launch into the sevens, I guess. And really, I kind of feel culpable for this one, seeing as we are the dropped kickoff and the boys kept dropping the kickoff on their way out to Fiji. And the women's team, of course, losing to Canada and then the US in the bronze final. The men losing to Fiji and then I believe it was South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes. Kind of already expunged that from my mind. Let's kind of talk through this. Obviously, really disappointing. I think on yesterday, I've lost track of time, but I think on Wednesday morning, I walked into work angry. I was not in a good mood. Nathan, I mean, you already said you feel like crap, but how did you feel otherwise?
I mean, let's start with the men. Like the men, it's sort of two fourth-place finishes, but two very different feeling fourth-place finishes. Like the men's competition is so wide open that getting through that quarterfinal and the way they did a shutout win, that was like oh wow, okay, this is a really good performance. This is a pass mark. Know what happens from here. And yeah, Fiji in the Olympics are just sick. They are awesome. So when you went down to them, you're pretty sort of calm about it. But to lose that South Africa game, when you get a red card, a try that is off a forward pass, a couple of knock-ons missed as well, and a try after the siren, God, it sucks. God, it sucks, particularly against the South African side who have not been in the best form this year. They were for those that are sort of unaware of sevens, the sort of seven scenarios, they missed qualifying or automatic qualifying twice and were the last teams in. Then they go get a bronze and get all the sort of celebrations and victories that come with that back at home. You then have a women's side who basically went into it as in a two-horse race, finished fourth. Now, again, fourth is still a great achievement at any Olympics, but for a side that had, I think, 3 title wins, including the overall grand final, were 12-0 up against Canada.
This season. Gold medal favourites.
Up there, or tied gold medal favourites in New Zealand. Your Commonwealth Games gold medalists defending, reigning. Your Rugby World Cup Sevens World Cup champions. To then go out and be 12-0 up against Canada and just fall apart was unbelievable to watch. And something I couldn't sort of fathom as it was happening. It was one of those games. I had a nervous feeling going into it for 4 hours beforehand, and it just sort of came true. You then to not be able to rally against the USA and blow open tries and have them score a 90-minute meter try to win the game. Fuck, that hurt. Like, that is, as again, I sort of already mentioned it. I'm in a privileged position where I can cover this stuff for a living, and having to stay up at all hours of the night for the past 3 years and seeing it absolutely fall in that regard. God, I felt for the players, and God, I felt for everyone involved, because Jesus Christ, that's one of the toughest ones I've sort of gone through.
Yeah, pretty tough to stomach. I mean, I guess silver lining, the Poms didn't get the gold medal, so that kind of really helps you process it.
Yeah, but the Kiwis did, so, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, good on them. You know, you just kind of want to ruffle their head, you know. Well done. But yeah, man, just incredibly disappointing. Really disappointing.
It comes back to, and this is where I'm going to launch into a bit of a rant here. So excuse it. This is not much sleep and still a bit delirious and frustrated. It comes back to a position where everyone sort of talks about what's wrong with Australian rugby, and you know we'll sort of get into sort of certain reasons later with our interview around sort of grassroots. But for me, the number one thing right now is the fact that we get ourselves in these positions and we just blow it when it matters. We do not win games that count. Like, you look back at basically every team we've had. You know, if we were shit, I could cop it. Like the West Indies cricket, they're shit and everyone cops it. Waratahs is shit, they were terrible and you cop it. But time and time again, we get ourselves in positions where we can launch to the next level. We can create stars like USA have with Elena Mar, who's now the most followed rugby player comfortably, and arguably in the top 5 biggest stars out at the Olympics for a bronze medal. We have these opportunities constantly, and we don't win. Whether it was our sevens girls can win tournaments all over the world, when it comes to the Olympics and when it comes to home events, they haven't. The Wallabies get themselves in positions of winning games, and they don't. I'm just at the point where I'm so sick of making other people stars when we just don't have them. We have people ready to be the stars. You know, Maddie Leo scores 14 tries, and she should be the star of this. She should be this 21, 22-year-old who's the best female athlete, I believe, currently in sort of those contact sports, whether it's NRL, AFL, rugby union. Instead, it gets just sort of tossed away because it was fourth. This should have been our starting moment, because we can't put it together in the big stage, and we haven't. You look back at, we made Fiji in terms of the biggest stars they are right now. The Bledisloe 2 years ago, all of a sudden sort of kept Ian Foster around and made sort of New Zealand sort of come back. There are so many opportunities. There's so many opportunities where we have been there and ready to take the next step. Every time we stuff it up, and it pisses me off to no regard, because we're a good side. We have such good players all along. And, to then see players of, fourth, we were fourth but first on the field. Like, yeah, I don't have any issue with sort of players going on afterwards drinking and, this is Charlotte Caslick, by the way. I don't have any issue.
You're referring to the Charlotte Caslick story, which she posted and then quickly took away on Instagram, which was her at a pub, beer in hand, saying we are fourth, as in we came fourth, but we're fourth off, but fourth on, but first off, as in back to the pub first. But yeah, sorry, Nathan.
But which again, you have an Olympic athlete that's been going for 4 years straight. I get, I have no issue going drinking that, but it's the attitude of, oh well, this will happen next. It's like, oh, we'll get them next time. I'm sorry, I've seen 12 compared to all the Australian teams, I've seen about 12 or 15 will get them next time, and I'm over it. This was our chance to really sort of launch again, and it just keeps falling short. I'm sick of it. I think, I can't remember, somebody tweeted it, and I can't remember who it was. And as I find it, I'll give it credit for essentially it's Gordon Bray was the voice of Australian rugby when everything was going well. And poor Sean Maloney has just become the voice of just disappointment and heartbreak. Yeah. And that's what's happened. Is just all we've copped in the last 2 or 3 years is heartbreak. And yeah, I'm sensitive to it because, this is my job. You can't avoid it. And I think as old mate in the Raw, Christy Doran said, we long for the day with the tide to turn. Because, we're so sick of this sort of turning. I'm so sick of this. And this is the fan of me speaking right now. I'm so sick of just seeing ourselves get this moment, getting the hope up, and then just having to look back and go, you idiot, what were you thinking? This is how it always ends. And, you see Ma, see DuPont, see what everyone else has gone, and just think, why can't this be us? And this is what frustrates me about the fact that, this is, again, they were tied gold medal favourites. Fourth isn't good enough for what they sort of have put out there in the resume and what they're trying to be. The fact that we have to watch this again and just sit here and go, fuck, like what just happened? You have to sit there just feeling sick about the result. As you said, going to work angry again. I'm over it. I'm just over it.
Yeah. I know. I actually had this thought catching the train back from work about, here I am supporting this sport. What am I doing? Everyone laughs at you. The Charlotte Caslick story, which has made the news, definitely in the News Corp papers, and the inset photo was her when she played for the Dragons for a couple of games. It's
Roosters.
The Roosters, yeah. It's just what a gut punch, what an alphaing. They've come forth, had all the talent. It's really disappointing, and yeah, I mean, look, I don't blame her for getting out in the years after. That's all fine.
No, of course not.
I mean, I'm jealous. I wish I could be an Olympian. The parties would be amazing. But yeah, and that's just for that fact, Nathan. I want to be. I was watching the rowing, and they've got they're called coxswains.
Yeah,
they're the people just shouting at them. Like, they're not doing anything. I guess you just got to be low weight to be a good coxswain, right? Because you don't want to drag down the boat. All you're doing is shouting at people. What is your athletic prowess? They get to enjoy the Olympic parties. I want to be a coxswain. But, yeah, disappointing. I'm shaking my head.
Yeah,
people can't
I guess
my head.
It comes back as well. Like, these Sevens girls have had all the success. And don't get, this isn't sort of criticism about them. I feel for them because no one would be hurting more for them, and they've had an incredible year. But this is sort of comes from an overall just feeling as an Australian fan of, for them it's one massive sort of dagger to the heart, and it will be for and you have to use it for motivation after it's particularly what happened in Tokyo as well. But for speaking from a fan's perspective, it's just another jab. It just keeps coming, and you start thinking when is it going to stop? When is the tide turn? And hopefully,
well, for them, it's kind of like just a bad day at work. I'll go home, have a beer, I'll feel better tomorrow. But for us, it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, and it just feels like just large cuts are coming. And yeah, look, you're getting a podcast at this stage where I'm still in the stage of coping. And if you've just listened to the last 5-6 minutes of my rant, you've probably just heard me go through about 2 or 3 stages of grief right there. But that's the reality of it. That's the reality of my time as a fan is, I'm of a generation that doesn't remember 90. I wasn't even close to being alive in 91. I was barely alive in 99. I don't remember a Bledisloe win. This is all I have is just these moments where you think you're going to get that bit of sort of joy and it just goes straight down. And you there's just only so much of that you can take without losing all sanity. And I think you're listening to that last couple of bits trying to sort of escape.
Yeah, I remember John Eales kicking the penalty in Wellington, but barely.
I've got no recollection whatsoever.
Yeah, disappointing. But let's go from being disappointing to be controversial. But on the way of going being controversial, just a shout out to, I guess, the men's side. So France won it. Argentina, who's I think they won World Sevens. Well, at least they won the World Sevens League, but not the grand final. Yeah. I think they crashed out in group stage, so they'll be devastated. And they were really impressive this year. But France won at the end against Fiji, and Dupont taking them to glory. Obviously, I didn't watch the games because A, I was disappointed, and B, it was 3 a.m. But let's just talk about that. Did you get to catch Dupont?
Oh yeah, he's a freak. He is the best player we currently have in this game, and all of a sudden, his sort of risk of getting taking some Six Nations games off to prioritise getting himself into just full fitness. Sevens-wise, full fitness has paid off unbelievably, and he's just going to be an even bigger star now. He is obviously everyone will sort of point to he's got to win a World Cup, he's got to win away from Europe, but right now he's the best player we have and just the best ambassador we have for this sport. You've seen breakdancing afterwards, not breakdancing, but the coordinated dance routine they had afterwards.
I did not. I haven't.
It's amazing. Look it up. If you're listening to this, look it up. they basically, I think they had like a dance choreographer or some sort of movement specialist in camp with them, and they basically got him to like basically taught him a dance, and they were sort of almost like it was like Razor Ray, not Razor Ray, Scott Robertson-esque, minus like the breakdancing, like the on the floor worming. It's awesome, and just the way it sort of lit up the sort of Stade de France, like first day in Olympics. Like that's the energy Sevens needs. That's the energy that it all sort of needs when you can sort of compare that. And yes, what the US win has done for the sport, like they're just two very good results that are just all of a sudden are going to take Sevens to the next level if they're capitalized on properly.
All right, Nathan, I have looked up this dance. I'm trying to actually hang on. Come on,
if we remember, we'll put a link in. We'll put a link into the.
To this anyway, yeah, we will. It's all on TikTok, and you can't watch TikTok without having an account.
So we'll find a video. I say, go through my Twitter. Go to my Twitter. It's a couple of retweets.
I just saw it. Honestly, that was amazing. That was an amazing little dance. Very French. Anyway, great podcasting from us. Yeah, so if no one called it, Squidge Rugby, the YouTuber who does rugby tactics and other rugby videos, called Antoine Dupont the best player in the world, or of all time, maybe. And his immediate replies was like, yeah, but he hasn't, won on a cold night in the high veld. Cold Tuesday night in the high veld. What do you think about that, Nathan? You just got him the best player right now.
Yeah, like this sort of comes back to sort of two things as well. One, the hyperbole comes in anything. Like just because someone has an opinion because they have a profile doesn't mean it's true. Like I have a lot of shit. I have a lot of shit opinions. Like none of what I say is gospel. I think this also comes back to a lot of discourse of there is a lot of people online from a certain country that may have won 4 World Cups. I'm not sure if you've been on Twitter, but they love mentioning how many World
New
Cups
Zealand.
they've won. Wrong one.
Oh,
similar.
Oh, okay.
Similar, but they're as bad. They're close to as bad. But these ones are getting quite feisty with it. They just need to take a chill pill. Like
they don't have anything else, Nathan.
We get it. You won back.
The country is falling apart. Everyone's fleeing it. They're rolling blackouts. Allegedly. Allegedly rolling blackouts. And
but
it's stupid.
The two can be true.
Sad. Yeah,
like Antoine Dupont can be the best player currently in the world, and looking just how he played at Toulouse, how he played at Toulon. No, Toulon. I'm pretty sure it's Toulon. How he played at the World Cup, how he played at the Olympics. You can absolutely say he's the best player out there currently. But it's also true that South Africa were the best team at the World Cup and deserve to win that title for a 4th time. We just need to get back to being a civilization. Like, if you're willing to sort of go into every post and sort of about like anything around rugby and mention the 4 World Cups or try and just bring people down because what they do for something that they do on grass, then you have to go outside and touch grass.
Yeah.
Simple.
It's insane. I mean, there is a point that it's kind of hard to say who's the best player in what is a team sport. But
exactly.
I saw a fairly reasonable South African guy on Twitter say put out his team of grubs, and it was mostly unfilled. And I think Bismarck du Plessis was there, whatever. But Nick White was a scrum half, and I'm like, bro, you have to be South African just because one time he fell over.
One time he just happened to milk a penalty when he got hit in the head.
Yeah, yeah. When you're from South Africa and you have someone like Bismarck du Plessis or that guy who ran on the field and tackled the ref. It's enraging.
Silly.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's just absolutely silly. It's just a discourse. We need to sort of go back to being a functioning online society, which it probably never was, but it just become way more prominent these days.
Yeah, Australian rugby discourse looks a lot better in retrospect. Okay, I think that's about it from the Sevens. Some people I've seen saying not much interest in the Olympics now the Sevens is over. Not me. I've been trying to watch it. I had to turn it off the other day because the Poms were beating us in the rowing. And then I changed channels to the fencing, and I don't understand that, so I turned it off and went to bed. What have you been watching, Nathan? What's your favourite Olympic sport?
What's my favourite Olympic sport? I mean, outside of the rugby, of course. I have loved a bit. I mean, swimming because we keep winning. Swimming and canoeing, just stuff we win. But just for the random stuff, like a bit of handball, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Handball is just one of those sports we look at and go, like, we have so many cricket players. Surely, like, we could throw somebody in there to compete. Like, it just gets someone with a rocket arm out there and just fucking go for it.
Yeah, or maybe we can introduce spin bowling into handball and really mess up their minds.
Think about it. How are you going to stop something that just like bounces and breaks like 3 feet?
Yeah,
I think we're onto a winner here.
Doozra. Warney could be the best cricketer and best handballer.
Just wait until if Warney came out with a flipper. Good luck any goalkeeper to stopping that.
Yeah. I don't understand handball either.
Not a clue.
Nah. I used to play it in high school. No, I'm a big fan of weightlifting. Weightlifting's really easy to like understand. You get it. And what I love more about it is before they come out, you know, there's especially like this Central Asian or the Balkan peoples. They all look how you expect them to, like some old dude, and there's another old dude who just has smelling salts, and they keep slapping each other on the face. Real nice fight.
It's so funny. I love it. They just get so intense with it.
Yeah. But it's really simple. Who can lift the heaviest weight?
Yeah, again, so many of the sports are so particular when it comes to, you've got to do this. I was watching the judo and just watching this Australian dude flip the other dude. I'm like, that's good, right? And just wouldn't score points. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Maybe Joe Rogan. You could have Joe Rogan telling you what's going on.
Joe Rogan needs to be a commentator. Why is he not?
Yeah. Well, if Tubby's still in the diving.
Look, to be fair, he took some great catches at first leave. So, like, don't tell me that man doesn't know how to like dive. I will not have this disrespect.
Yeah, I think it's a masterstroke. Anyway, I've had the luxury to not listen to any Channel 9 commentary. Moving on from the Olympics, let's talk about another type of gold, Nathan. Do you know what type of gold I want to talk about?
I have no idea what type of gold.
The Wallabies shirt.
Oh, there's a good
beautiful bronzy gold of the Wallaby shirt. They've named the Rugby Championship squad today. Can't say I'm too shocked by anything. Joe Schmidt is very sensible. I'm not really gonna read out the list of players. I'm sure you've already seen it. I'm not sure anyone who's listening to this is a casual rugby fan. But that's kind of let's just quickly get stuck into this. Kind of standouts for me with Fraser McRae, still call him McRae because of that Kiwi commentator. Fraser McRae out. They need a new pilferer. So Luke Reimer and Carlo Tizzano have come into the squad. And the other kind of standouts for me, Nathan, Marika's back and Corey Toole is in the squad. So if they happen to play at the same time, that's a very fast and very tasty, tantalizing wing pair. I don't know if wing pair is a phrase, but
that's a word, yeah.
Wing pair, good. And Marika also being the only overseas pick, so like no Will Skelton, which to me makes sense because that's pre-season in Europe right now, and maybe expect him to play later, maybe when we play Argentina in a couple of weeks. Anyway, Nathan, tell me about your thoughts on the squad.
I mean, I agree with the 7 and wing discourse. I agree. Like, you need essentially brought in 2 very like-for-like players with no Fraser in Reimer and Cardizano. I know Reimer was in camp for the Georgia test, just almost like working as opposition, trying to sort of mimic what the Georgians were going to do. So he's very familiar with Joe Schmidt, and Joe Schmidt's very familiar with him. Carlo Tizzano I love because he's also that ball threat, but also he's just insane. And I think you need that. You need that in a good forward. You need one of those guys that's just batshit in the best way possible. Like
that's what I keep saying. That's what I keep saying. Even if they do get sent off for stupid shit.
But he doesn't get sent off for stupid shit, so that's why I like him. Like he puts his head in the place where no one else wants to. He is just the ultimate team man. I love him. I think he should get a debut. I think he was the man I threw out there when we were going through that initial leaked names of people from the force. That was who I wanted to get a debut the most. The wingers, like, take your pick. You now have Dongunu, who was like our best player from that Wales series, as maybe your fifth option with Toole, Marika, Kellaway. Why am I blanking on the fourth? Oh, Tom Wright. Tom Wright's another option you could throw in there, as well as Max Jorgensen. So, like, there are so many exciting different ways. The same Marika and Marika as well. What excites me most, the name you didn't mention, is the return of Angus Bell. If he is fitting back, like, all of a sudden that's just another piece to that front row. Like, I think he came in for Alex Hodgman off the top of my head. And if he's back fully fit, you then have a scrum with him and Taniela on at the same time. That's tasty.
Waratahs Front Row 2025, baby.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it could be announced the next couple of days that Taniela's coming, which has been reported that he's been signed for 2025.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's still there's names I thought that were going to be there was your Charlie Cales and the Darby Lancasters of the world, but everyone that's come in, even Sarah Uru's come in. Yeah, he was great for the Reds, so there's no real sort of surprises, as you said. It's just it's a sensible squad by a sensible man.
Yeah. I don't really know what else to say. I think it's also kind of sensible as well that it's mainly Australian based. Well, actually, almost all is except for Marika. I think that sends a good sign, and I think that's also very healthy because it's, if you want to talk about cohesion in any sense, it's a regular squad, it's consistent, and it's highly competitive. You don't just get kind of dropped in from overseas just because you just have that name with you. So yeah, I'm excited for it. One question I've got for you, Nathan, though, is this unavailable for selection roster? It's fairly hefty, but why do they have it? So for everyone who doesn't know, the squad, they have an unavailable for selection. So Curtly Beerlanger, Gleeson, Harry Johnson-Holmes, and a couple other names there, including Fraser McRae. Fucking hell. Yeah, but why do they have it?
I guess more of it's just the sort of, I think two-part. One, to sort of recognise players that were very good this year, and I guess those players have been out sort of long-term injuries. So you guys like your Rob Leotas, Lockie Lonigans, Dave Parecki's, who would probably be on this sort of the pathway to it. I guess the second one is probably just sort of peace of mind for a lot of fans as well, knowing who's sort of who's been picked, who's out because they're injured, and who's just out of the squad altogether. So guys, like, if you look at the squad and go, oh, where the hell's Fraser McRae? Where's Liam Wright? And you can look down and go, oh, unavailable selection, they must be injured. Instead of just people speculating and sort of getting the pitchforks ready to go. So I think it's a twofold approach.
Yeah. Okay. This is the squad to play South Africa week after next. Is that right, Nathan?
Next, it starts on the 10th, so 9 days time.
9 days time
from the time we're recording this.
Yeah. So we are going to play South Africa twice in 2 weeks. First game's in Brisbane. The second game is in Perth. Correct.
Correct.
Then it takes a week's break. So then we fly over to Argentina, play 2 games in Argentina. I mean, I don't really hate this. Obviously, I understand it for player welfare and everything. It's not great for us as fans, but at least Argentina's early in the morning. So a week's break, 2 games in Argentina. That'd be a nice little tour as well, excuse for a holiday. And then they're coming back, another week's break. Then we're playing the Kiwis here, and then we're going to New Zealand to play them. Is that correct?
That is correct. And on that Argentina, it's 8 a.m. and 5 a.m. Like, that's
Oh,
That's not bad.
perfect. That's fine. Oh. Perfect
We'll
start
top that.
to a Sunday morning. But yeah, cool. Do you think we're any chance against the world champions?
As weird as another, yeah, I think we do. I think for some reason South Africa just have a horrific record down here in Australia, particularly Brisbane. I think there is some kind of mental thing there where I think there is just scarring against New Zealand and a lot of other nations, mainly New Zealand, but weirdly South Africa just doesn't seem to exist. It's one of those weird ones I've always found that people are like, oh, yeah, we can just nab a game against South Africa. Nab a game or two in South Africa like it's nothing. Like they're not just the defending World Cup champions. I've been sort of down that road too many times of, oh yeah, trying to like hyping them back up, and you just see Australia with a team on paper that is probably weaker than what South Africa put out there. Just go out there and beat them, and you go, oh, okay, cool. And like we just, I don't know, it's just something. It's just one of those places down here in Australia which South Africa just don't play well. So you combine that with, you know, Brisbane is a place, no matter the opposition, we play well. Yeah, I think we've got a chance that first game.
I've thought for a while we should play the Bledisloe in Brisbane.
Yeah, get it back up there.
That fact, yeah. Just both games.
I think it's more a money thing. Like I think Melbourne paid a lot of money for 2 tests, and then
it absolutely is the money thing. It absolutely is. I mean, if you sell out, Homebush here, that's what 30,000 more tickets than you could ever sell in Brisbane.
Yeah, so, comfortably.
Yeah. That's exciting. I'm looking forward to rugby coming back. Bloody love it. Hopefully they don't disappoint us as much as the Sevens. No, Nathan, before we go any further, do you have anything else to add? Have we covered everything so far?
I believe we have. You know, we're sort of gearing up for TRC to start, and then we'll sort of be back into the fold. Looking forward to just getting my heart broken again, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it hasn't been broken enough. Cool. So like I said at the start, we have a special guest. This is a special guest time. So I've had the great opportunity to interview Carolyn Campbell. She is a sports administrator. She's run Netball New South Wales, Volleyball Australia, Basketball Australia for a bit. Is the chair for Hockey One, which is the current hockey league, Australia Field Hockey League, the one that's in the Olympics, and is currently also on the board of New South Wales Rugby League. I sat down with her. I don't really kind of recommend it. I was shitting bricks. Nathan and I were talking a bit before off air. Interviewing, I guess, famous people can get you a bit nervous, can't it, Nathan?
100%.
And it's Nathan's job, and he still gets the jitters sometimes. And we interviewed Matt Giddo and all that from Coco, which I'm sure you guys have listened to, or guys and gals. And I was feeling a bit nervous for that one, but I was really nervous, and I really don't recommend it. I was just thinking, fuck, it's my boss. So Caroline is my boss. I'm getting a bit nervous introducing her again. I guess it's kind of like how people talk about Eddie Jones, his ex-players. Even now, I think Morgan Turinui says, even now I think about him and I get nervous. But no, Caroline is not toxic in any way like that. Damn it, I'm losing my nerve already. Anyway, I think we're just kind of dropping the interview. I did it last week. We're just waiting for a good time to do another pod with us on the horizon. So anyway, without further ado, here's my interview with Caroline. Enjoy. Hey everyone, it's me, Nick, and today I'm really excited to introduce you to Carolyn Campbell. Carolyn is an experienced sports administrator involved in many sports and outdoor activity organizations around Australia and throughout her career. Notably, Carolyn was CEO of Netball New South Wales for almost 18 years, from 2003 to 2020, CEO of Volleyball Australia, Basketball Australia CEO for a little bit, and also a current board member of New South Wales Rugby League and a former chair of
Volleyball Australia, not Director of Volleyball Australia, not CEO.
Director, sorry. Sorry.
Would like to be the CEO. Yeah.
Apologies to everyone at Volleyball CEO. And currently, you are the CEO of Scouts Australia. I've been so lucky to meet you and know you, Carolyn. Caroline, welcome, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for the invitation to join you.
No worries, Caroline. I'm super excited for this. But before we begin, would you call yourself a sports administration expert?
Not sure about expert. I think the term I have been acknowledged and is trailblazer because of the amount of time I've spent in the area, and I suppose the evolution of sport that's been undertaken over those many years. I love sport. I love what sport offers to the person as an individual, as a teammate, as a participant, as an umpire, as a coach, whatever it might be. It's just such a positive way of being involved with a group of people with a common goal. It's just amazing. So sport has always been something that I've really been keen to support and make sure it is providing the best accessibility and opportunities it possibly can to whoever it might want to take it on.
Absolutely. So I guess that's kind of why you got into sports administration in the first place?
Yeah, look, I was really fortunate. I just loved playing sports, so tried a lot of sports when I was younger. Found I had a real affinity with a hockey stick and was lucky enough to climb through some echelons of elite hockey. And then in addition to while I was still playing, in those days you got co-opted is a nice word, probably conned is the real word, onto being part of a committee, which grew into being part of what we would now know as a board, but was an executive committee in those days. So I found myself really dabbling and enjoying the fact that the more structured side of administration while I was still playing, and you start to realise just how much needs to go into getting people on a court, pitch, paddock, field, whatever it might be, is critical in order for the sport to be able to take place. So all of that was beneficial, but it really gave me a great understanding. And then from there, we're able to drive that love. I was a phys ed teacher. It's all I wanted to do was be a phys eder. Left school, did my university degree, ended up teaching for about 8 years, and then realised that there was probably a bit more I could do and wanted to do something different, and ended up in our state government department of sport and rec, running some really cool initiatives and programs, particularly in the coaching and officiating area. And then from there, opportunities arose, and I found myself sort of catapulted into an interim role to start with inside hockey, after a retirement of the administrator in those days, and then it just sort of went from there to there, and here I am today.
Yeah, amazing. So I guess just to help explain yourself or to people get to know you. So you started off in hockey, as mentioned before. You went to netball. So could you give us a quick overview, volleyball, basketball as well? Could you give me a quick overview of your career so far up to date?
So, as I said, phys ed, hockey player, loved hockey, was serving on committees and things, supporting the sport. Went into that role, actually worked with then Women's Hockey Australia before it was joined to be Hockey Australia to put in a bid to host the 2002 Women's Hockey World Cup, which was played in Perth. So I am a West Australian by birth, and spent the first 40 years of my life there. And then got this opportunity to run the Women's Hockey World Cup, which was phenomenal, second only to the Olympic Games, which is a really topical time given we're on the eve of the Olympics. 16-nation event, truly worldwide, 72 matches, 2 weeks, live broadcast, everything else. So got that opportunity, and then when that finished, was looking for my next thing. And my personal life brought me to New South Wales, and I took the first job I could get, which was netball. Which, if you know about the rub between netballers and hockey players, because in my day that was really the two winter sports that were available to girls and females. So you're either a hockey player or a netballer, different stomatotypes completely in the two games. So there was always a bit of a rub there about what sport was better. So for a hockey player to end up in netball administration was quite something.
Yeah, right.
Then was really fortunate to have a really great career spanning with netball, because started with 8 staff, finished with 100, went from a tin shed over in Lidcombe to a major state-of-the-art centre of excellence building at Sydney Olympic Park. I got the opportunity to help redevelop the Ken Rosewell Arena to be the true indoor venue that it needed to be post the Olympic Games. So just some really great opportunities. Also, at the same time, was the chair of Sports the New South Wales Sport New South Wales, the Sports Federation, that is the peak body that actually looks after all sports, and really had a concerted effort to get sport through the COVID periods. To be honest, that exhausted me. And so after that length of time and 18 years at netball, I just wanted a break, so took that. Not long after that break, I was offered an opportunity to parachute into Melbourne to be the interim CEO of Basketball Australia while they so sort of straddled an incoming, outgoing board and a few other changes they needed to make, and of course bringing workforce back in Melbourne out of COVID. And so I did that right up to the eve of the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, which was 2021, and finished there, and then had a few months off and landed myself at Scouts. But been really fortunate too. So I have director roles with Volleyball Australia, as I've identified, completely independent to volleyball. Don't have a volleyball background, but have strong sport governance leagues that I bring to that, and stakeholder management to that role. And more recently, I've found myself a director of New South Wales Rugby League, which I really love as well, as we've just discussed the origin. So, and the historic win for New South Wales there. So, and I also chair Hockey One, which is the elite league component of the domestic hockey program.
Yeah, right. That's a very extensive resume. A bit of a whirlwind. I can't say I'm jealous of your times running a sport during COVID.
Well, that was really working hand in glove with state government and the health department to keep sport on the program and being able to bring sport back. And none of us really knew what tomorrow would bring. So it was a really testing time for the sports and the participants. And, we had a few false starts where we got going again, only to find ourselves, being having to go back into isolation again. So it was a really testing time. And I think I'm really proud of the fact that sport came through it the way that it did, because never more at a time like that, never more has it been important that sport is there for people to gather with their teammates and get together. And it doesn't matter what the code is, doesn't matter if it's indoors or outdoors. It's all about being part of that team and being able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sport coming out of COVID was one of the big, most kind of symbolic things of COVID ending, or COVID getting used to life with COVID. But moving on from that, let's kind of get stuck into it. So obviously rugby in Australia, rugby union, has faced a lot of challenges, and we'll get to that hopefully eventually. But before we start, let's just talk about sports administration. A lot of fans have a lot of opinions how games should be run. But from your perspective, what are the kind of biggest misconceptions or challenges of sports administration that I guess the person on the street doesn't really consider or think about?
Great question, Nick. I think one of the things is that a lot of people think sports administration is really easy, and because people have a love and affinity and a passion for a sport or the way it's delivered. So therefore, it can't be that hard to make it work, right? So I think, like most things these days, it's about safety, it's about compliance, it's about making sure that you've got good, even if it's hire contracts with facilities, or whether it's commercial and corporate partners or sponsors, as you more likely know them. It's about having member protection in place. It's about having sound insurances in place. It's almost frightening if you run through a checklist. You almost would run away from being a sports administrator, I feel, for what, like most things, when you look at the risks of what could or could not, may not go the way you want them to. But it's really interesting when you run a sport. So netball's really big, 115,000 members in New South Wales alone. It's really interesting when you run an office which has got a grandstand, because basically all people are looking in the office constantly for guidance and for answers and for, and that again, it's a very positive environment generally, but it is interesting to have that grandstand looking in and making sure that people are benefiting from whatever it is that whether they're a player, whether it's an association or a league or whatever it might be. And that's I think one of the core what did you ask? Myths or misbeliefs about how easy it is to run a sport.
Yeah. So one thing, and I've kind of encountered this with the Scouts, is, I guess, trying to run an organisation when there's a lot of volunteers who are as passionate as anyone else about the sport or the cause, but just do it in their spare time, and aren't turned on, not so tuned in 40 hours a week on the sport or the passion. So I guess if you could talk to me a bit more about that and the challenges there with volunteers and coaches. So just before you begin, like, we've got on our podcast, which I'm sure you listen to all the time, Carolyn, we have a couple of coaches who have a range of challenges and passion and frustrations, I guess, with the game and what should be done and what could be getting done. So it's just how do you wrangle that? How do you feel about that? Yeah, just tell me more.
Yeah. So let's start at A. There is no way that you can deliver a sport or Scouts or whatever it might be, an activity across this wide nation of ours without the volunteer workforce. So if we were to cost that out, and people have had a go at trying to model that and what it costs per participant, it's enormous. And that is the beauty of our system, as opposed to in the US, which is more of a college-based system in sport, or and it stops and starts and all of those sorts of things. So the benefit in Australia is our volunteer workforce, and they are incredibly beneficial. But that does leave it open for people's accountability, for availability. I took this on and then all of a sudden I didn't realise it was going to be so hard, or I thought I could do it but I can't, or something's happened, life gets in the way, whatever it might be. So we've got this whole I guess, reliance and need for have really passionate and committed volunteers to deliver sport, because we can't afford to pay for it. So how we recognise, train, develop, acknowledge volunteers across the systems are very critical to keeping those people and to making it really clear. So, have clarity around roles and what they need to do and how that works. And if there's a checklist they can pick up and run with, or even better on their phone or whatever it might be, to make it as easy as we possibly can for the volunteer workforce to deliver and be a part of our system, then that's what we need to do. And there's some incredible case studies out there where, the delivery of sport and what people have got out of it. When I was chairing Sport New South Wales, we used to give a number of awards, both in the community and the elite side. We actually had 2 different events, and the community ones were just phenomenal with the long-serving volunteers and what people have been able to do. And this goes across all sports because, you talk about tier 1 sports, which might have a bit more resourcing to them, but you go all the way down to the more unique sports and ones that have got smaller participation numbers, and they're delivered just as well. So I think there's a real benefit in the way that we do things, and that allows for a lot of people to be involved. And because of that, they get that benefit from all the reasons we talk about being part of a sporting system. But no question, recognition, training, acknowledgement, clarity of roles, understanding of what the volunteers are giving and making it as easy as possibly can for them with whatever technology we can do or whatever it might be, then that's really important.
So mostly we've talked about volunteers and I guess the community side of the game, but looking towards sports that have a sizable professional output to them. So New South Wales Rugby League, for example. I'm not sure about Netball New South Wales, but definitely the Super Netball, is that what it's called?
Yes. That was one of the best things of my job, right, at Netball, because I had carriage from the grassroots, the under 8s and the net set goers that got their pack and came along, right through to the amazing role models and players at the Super Netball League. And, actually was having such a great time, decided that we should run 2 teams. So had both Giants and Swifts. But it's interesting because not every sport has that connection piece. So you think about AFL, they go out of the AFL system into a club system, which is completely independent. Cricket is very similar to netball. Rugby union with the Waratahs from the grassroots through to that is now they've had different models and they're back to that now. There's even another iteration of that, which I'm not fully across with recent developments with Rugby Australia coming in with some of that management. So I think that to be able to actually administer the sport from go to woe is really, really important, and that the investment in the sport and the actual way that you can provide those player pathways and coach pathways, umpire pathways, everything is really, really important.
Yeah. So with what's happened with the Waratahs and might happen with the Brumbies, I think my understanding is that the Rugby Australia is going to take over the high performance part of those organisations, and New South Wales, the Waratahs New South Wales Rugby Union will look after subbies and all the amateur kind of side of games. But interestingly, as a side piece, the Shoot Shield, I'm pretty sure, is still its own thing out in the ether there, not really connected to either. But that kind of what I'm kind of interested in here is that cleave between the two. So in AFL, they don't really have much to compete with, and they have the most loyal base in the world. Not much to compete with in terms of, like, they don't have an international scene to go to. They've got their domestic heartland, and it is a heartland. And so they can just funnel a lot of their growth into the grassroots, which they've done really well. Really done that slow burn because they can afford to. But something like Rugby Union are kind of stuck in between. Do we just have a successful national team, build it, and they will come? Or should we build it? So I guess, what's your kind of insight here? Like, when you're doing sports administration, where do you go to? Because you can, to go back to the guys on the pod, Josh and Dylan, a lot of their frustrations is they feel like their passion and they just get worked out. They work their asses off, don't get a whole lot of acknowledgement, but they're coaching the next players. They're coaching the kids who could become the next player. Whereas Rugby Australia is like, we'll just pay these guys a lot of money and hopefully the kids will play. So what's your kind of feeling on that?
So for me, it's really simple, Nick. It's a triangle, right? And the base of that triangle has to be really, really strong and solid. And the only way you can do that is to have the numbers playing. And if you think about netball, as I said, with the 115,000 base here in New South Wales alone, and you're filtering that up to 2 teams, elite teams of 24 at the moment, 12 on each contract with some training partners and things. We won't go into the intricacies of all of that. But essentially you're looking maybe for 30 players at that top level. That's a big base to get there. And the stronger that base is, the more opportunity that there is for those for that to come through. Now, without that base and without investing in that base, you're not necessarily going to get the athletes that you need to be, you know, in this case, the best in the world when you start talking about rugby union. The other challenge I think rugby union has is the you know, and it's a little bit similar to netball in regards, apart from rugby sevens, which good luck to the start for tonight. That's fantastic that the men play later tonight. But you know, it is the international game is at the World Cup level, is the highest level they have. Same with netball, right? Netball does have the Commonwealth Games if that ever runs again. But all that aside, it's a different pathway, and you're part of the whole global scene. So, you know, understanding the international window, which has to dovetail into the domestic window to get, you know, the Super Rugby, whatever it's called these days, to actually get that to all sequence is very important, because you can't have them out of sequence. You can't interrupt, you know, sometimes domestic seasons are interrupted by World Cups, but that takes a lot of the momentum out of it from a viewer and a fan. You know, the continuous fan piece is really important. Playing the game on Saturday is the end point, but what happens Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday leading up to that game, and then we start again and we go again, because you don't want to lose those fans. So building that content and building that understanding of, you know, following the player or an injury or whatever it might be is really, you know, the side stories, you know, are really, really important. So understanding all of that and how that dovetails into the international scene and the domestic scene is very, very critical. But without that really wide player base, it's really hard to then think you're going to have the best players or opportunities to have really strong national sides if you haven't got that really wide base.
Right. That's fascinating. It's fascinating that you're so kind of confident on what is repeated, the focus on the grassroots, and being a sports administrator, it's like, that's what you got to do. You can't really focus on the top down. You've got to invest
in the grassroots, right? Because where's the players of 5 or 10 years coming from? You can't start in 3 years' time. They've already got to be in the system. They've already got to be coming through. So if you haven't got that base really strong and it's really clear, you know, and particularly regional centres across the country, like, is there a clear pathway if I'm playing, you know, if I'm playing a code in a regional area, do I know how I can make it to an MCG or a major Allianz Stadium or whatever it might be? How do I get on that really big pitch or field? Like, what's the pathway, and is that understood? Because that's the other thing, is otherwise we're leaving a lot of really good talent in the regions and not getting it through. So, you know, because the talent ID, the administration of that and the talent ID is really critical, that players are identified and given that opportunity.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So I think Dylan, who coaches down in Melbourne, was saying that, you know, now no Rebels, he needs to know these guys, if they're any good, where they're going to go. So it is fascinating that you kind of just concrete agree with that argument. Concretely agree.
Well, the other interesting thing with that, Nick, is, and we're seeing a little bit of it, you know, in particularly between rugby league and rugby union, a bit across code hopping, whatever the words are. You know, Joseph Suwali's one that's going to union next year, I think. Like, at the end of the day, when you've got two sports that are, not to offend anybody, but similar but different, you know, there's so many similarities but so much difference too. So there's core skill acquisition and physicality that that player can take and be dropped into a similar code, it's a big arm wrestle. It's a big arm wrestle to get those first choice athletes, if you like, when you've got that ability to code hop and be successful. I mean, we all love the sporting stories of the, and I mean freaks in the right way, but you talk about some of the cricket, some of the players that are able to play and represent this country at different codes. They're amazing. Whether it's cricket and football, cricket and soccer, football, if it's that or if it's whatever it might be, and even Ash Barty, could play cricket and tennis, and it just the phenomenal respected athletes, and yet the decisions have to be made at some stage as to where they sit and what code they're going to go to. And then she picked up golf and did that really well too, apparently. So underachiever.
And I feel a bit ashamed because I'm not good at one sport, let alone multiple. That high performance discussion is actually really interesting. I mean, Alex Carey was in the GWS Academy, and now he's keeper for Australia.
That's right.
But then, interestingly, Michael Jordan, late in his career, tried to play baseball, and Usain Bolt tried out for Central Coast Mariners. I guess he was just really good at running fast.
Well, some coaches will say to you, if they can get a first-class athlete that has that physicality, they can teach them to play the game.
Yeah.
Rick Charlesworth would have said that about. He had a theory about that with hockey players. If you could get people that were really fast, particularly over the distances he needed, then he could teach them how to play. So that's a whole another discussion for another time. But it is interesting, but because there is something innate about elite athletes, the way they read play, the way they can, execute skills on the run under pressure. Don't ever forget about the pressure some of these athletes operate on. And, I think there's some special attributes there that making a decision as to what sport they're actually in is really forefront of the mind. I think more so, I think back in the day, a lot of that relied on family ties or what you're exposed to or what your school teacher taught you at school, because they had whatever it is, there was influences through there. But now it's become more of a marketplace. I guess as we've definitely approached that culture of refinement, they call it, I think in basketball, America especially, of that data, stats, what's the best way to win this game, how can we maximize everything and minimize all our losses. It's really interesting. Actually, we had a number of netballers when rugby sevens came in that jumped at the opportunity to go and have a go at that because they already had the ball skills, they had the speed and the understanding, particularly the girls. They just loved that opportunity to run, on a much bigger field than a netball court with lines on it. So there was a real trend there for a while there that they were having a go, and also they got to play potentially. It could be Olympic athletes.
Yeah.
So
not better than a Commonwealth Games medal. But maybe that might be collector's item soon.
At this stage, there's no hopes for 2026. So anyhow, move on. Not getting into that.
Okay, off limits. I lost my train of thought. But let's just, on that kind of topic of rugby union, I've got a couple of questions here for you. So first of all, it's kind of, from your outside looking in, what kind of challenges and maybe perhaps unique challenges could they face? And kind of second to that, a lot of people say rugby union in Australia is dead. It has a really small heartland. But do you still think, let's say they maximize grassroots and they just go, it's just going to be the North Shore, eastern suburbs of Sydney, northern beaches of Sydney, whatever equivalent that is in Brisbane, I guess the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne where there's a lot of Pacifica are people who are, rugby union people. But could that succeed as a sport, and could the Wallabies potentially, if they got back to winning ways, be that second team for Australia as they were perhaps 20 years ago?
Well, look, I think any sport that's got such a rich history and thread through it certainly can find its way again. I think I'm old enough to see that everything's cyclic, it comes back around, and it's just riding out the rough times until that happens. Having said that, you talk about currency and relevance. So understanding how the game can be, delivered, and on the surface, and how that can actually be amplified, that people want to play the game. So what is that hook that gets people in? I often talk about cricket with their 5-day white ball test matches being out here, still run for a core part of the audience and supporters, and possibly may always be there, but they also have their 50 over offering and their T20. And, I jokingly say a lot of people that go to a T20 match wouldn't even know there were 6 balls in an over, let alone what positions were there, or they just want to go for the colour and movement, yell and scream and cheer and sing along and get their face painted, or whatever it is. It's about the moment and the experience. So how does that interrate without diluting the sport, that you're actually giving that option and giving that attraction? Because you still will get the filter back to the test match cricketers, because they've got the opportunities and pathways are very strong to do that. So that I find that really interesting as to, that potentially some of those hooks as to how you get that, what is the moment that actually provides that, Interestingly, with volleyball, they had an absolute surgence of school volleyball. And one of the reasons for that was there was a cartoon called Haiku, which was a Japanese cartoon, and all the kids loved it and wanted to play volleyball. So what is rugby union's Haiku?
There is rugby union anime. I know that.
But seriously, it's some of those things just fall in, they just happen. They don't actually. How does? I mean, what is it? What is that hook? And you're right. Diluting the competition or not having that exposure week on week in the season in Melbourne is going to be tough. It's already a tough market. It's a hugely tough market. And Melbourne Storm do punch above their weight down there, but there's one team. And I think the other thing, Nick, too, if you actually, and this might be a topic for another discussion another time, is you look at the number of national league teams or league teams per capita for what we have in this country compared to the States, as an example, is extraordinary.
Yeah.
I can't remember the figure. If I'd done my homework, I'd be able to tell you what that is. But when you think about the NBL, when you think about rugby league, when you think about rugby union, when you think about AFL, when you think about the football codes, and then you double them up with the W codes of all of those others, all of a sudden you're starting to talk about, lots of, in the super netball teams, the number of teams that people can support and be part of and be fans of is huge, let alone the playing, the grassroots coming through the different channels to those codes. The choice is there. The choice is massive.
So from you're just saying, do you think they should move towards their heartland more and stick on that and just work on that?
I do, because as I've really put my neck on the line and said, without that strong foundation and that strong base, where do you get the players from? You can't just pick somebody up and put it in a system and hope that they get there.
Yeah.
So that investment has to be made.
Yeah. So fascinating. But just to go back just tiny bit to what you said before as well. that idea that there are so many sports in Australia. I think so. Like, off the top of my head, I could probably count them. The hockey and basketball and American football and baseball teams in like the New York metro is probably about 12, and that metro is 25 million compared to that's our population.
A per capita,
yeah.
I think there is those facts around somewhere. I just haven't got them on my fingers, but it's what we expect to sustain in Australia across the number of codes is phenomenal.
Yeah, crazy. It's nuts. But to go back again to your what's Australia's haiku? What's Australian rugby's haiku? And I really want to know what you think here, because I really think you talk about athletes like it's hand-eye coordination. Can they move across? And very recently, but I can still remember growing up when professionalism of all sports hadn't really come through. That there was that accessibility with athletes. You go, hey, he's just like me. The fans on the field go, he's just like me. Like Warney is the best example of that. Warney just had a gift. He had the world's strongest right wrist. And I feel that rugby's haiku is that you can still be that, because it's not just about running around with the ball or kicking a ball, being really fit, but there is that huge element of strength in rugby union, which I feel could provide, and a lot of it is people play it, and it's a very, only recently it's been a spectatorial sport, but it's usually participative. So it's a culture of people understanding what's going on. You said people probably go to T20s and don't know how many balls are in an over. But rugby, they can see a pile of men and go, oh, no, what exactly is happening there, what's actually happening, because they played the sport.
Yeah.
And I feel that's a distinction to everything's all the same, milk toast, oversaturation, choice paralysis, that we kind of just the world that we currently live in.
Yeah.
Do you think that's exploitable?
I do, except I'll throw another curveball at you, and that is that I think there's quite a great deal of evidence there that people that actually play the sport don't necessarily watch the sport at the higher level.
Right.
So this is another curveball in regards to the complexity of a game like rugby union and understanding that. I think that's the other thing there too, that people that actually are, students of the game and people that actually play the game don't necessarily then watch the next level up or the two levels up. Sure, the razzmatazz of a test match or a Bledisloe Cup or something, totally different because it's an event. But I'm not sure how that plays out. But I am just saying that is another factor that comes into play.
Well, I guess soccer's always had that problem.
Because that's one of the highest participation bases in. I think they're like 250,000 participants here in New South Wales. Yet we could go to an A-League game and know the four people are there. How many? Well, they do. They struggle. They struggle for crowds, and they've tried to. They've tried everything. They've tried to put it in the summer. They've tried to do it here. They've got to match it in with the international windows. A bit what we're saying with a lot of other sports, but it's finding that niche. It's finding the right size. You don't want to run a test match cricket game they run it when this the day 1 and 3 or whatever. The Sydney Test is always well frequented, but day 5 or day 4 not so much. And they've turned that into more of an event. But if you look at traditional test match cricket, you might get 6,000 or 12,000 people to the game playing in a very big arena, which costs a lot of money to open. So it's finding that niche as well.
Interesting. I guess that's another chat for a larger time about what can do. That's, I guess, you're more into the marketing perspective there. But just kind of moving on. So, I mean, obviously,
I watch with interest as to how this management model works for rugby union. I applaud them in trying to do something different. I will really watch with interest to see how that plays out for them, and maybe this is the answer.
Well, so that's what Ireland did. They basically brought in. They've got 4 teams, and their 4 teams play 2 teams from Scotland and 4 teams from Wales, I think, and 2 teams from Italy, and they brought it all in to have people running those 4 clubs. And an Australian did that, David Nisifora, who has said, I don't want to come back to, as I understand, didn't want to come back to Australia because I imagine he felt shafted, for lack of a better term, by the powers that be here. But anyway, moving on. So you're quite obviously a female in a very male-dominated sport. You are also from WA, so I guess your rugby league connection is not strong. But I guess I just want to know a bit more about when you mentioned trailblazing right at the start. So I guess it's just going to this trailblazing female sports administrator chat. Could you just tell me a bit more about that and how you found it and what it's like kind of breaking into, boys or girls clubs? And it could even extend that to ex-players who then start running the game and you're not an ex-player, and what it's like breaking into that.
Yeah. The Office of Sport awarded me a Trailblazer Award, the inaugural one, which is why I use that term. I didn't make it up.
It's like you've been knighted. Or you got your Order of Australia medal, and now it's OAM at the end. Trailblazer.
Yeah, I've just got my sports medal over there on the wall, which I'm very proud of from the 2000 Olympics. But no, seriously, it's an interesting question because I've never felt uncomfortable in the sporting environment being a female, even though I would often look around the room and go, oh, wow, there's just me and the rest are males. And I've had the opportunity to work with some incredibly generous people in terms of their time and mentorship and everything else. So I don't see that as, and I've never felt uncomfortable in that. I just want to be very clear in anything I've done in sport. And I am very, very grateful for the people that have spent a lot of time with me in all sorts of, either meetings or places that we've been or working groups that I've been able to be on. And I think that's because, coming from hockey, which is a true dual gender sport where, males and females are treated very similarly and competitions are equally accessible and everything else. So I think maybe that's why I never came in there with that sort of chip on my shoulder or wanting to make some sort of noise about that. But I think too, sport and the crossover and the crossover of the concepts and principles are very, very similar. Doesn't mean I'm an expert in rules and technicalities or coaching methods, but I think that more holistic background I had as with a Bachelor of Physical Education the day at UWA, which was everything from skill acquisition to biomechanics to physiology of exercise and everything else. All that provides this basis for you to actually understand what the sport is about, and then you just build on that within the nuances of each sport. I think some of my experience particularly has been in I love the development of competitions and leagues, and that's been something that I've been really fortunate to have a really big influence on a couple of those, and to be able to see those develop and actually come to life has been something that I'll always be very grateful for. The boys' clubs that you talk about, I'm sure they exist. I'm sure they're there. I just like to politely be, I guess, win my way through these times and just be recognised for what I'm contributing where I am. So I am the only female director on the New South Wales Rugby League board. Never do I feel like that, and whilst I'm a West Australian, as you've said, in rugby league, I was around when the Western Reds were there. But most importantly, I'm really showing my age. Most importantly, the admiration I have for that sport and the understanding I'm gaining from that sport, because again, through the mentorship and the inside advisory that I'm getting from some real people that can offer that within the sport is fantastic. So I'm very, very pleased to be part of that system. I think there's a piece there about being true to yourself and being authentic to yourself. And if you believe that you can fulfill the role that you're being asked to do or you've been appointed to, then you'll find a way to make that work. And for me, that's a really key piece is being authentic to myself and, taking things on that I want to do, that I can do, not just grabbing hold of things because I think it might be cool for 5 minutes to do that. Most of the things I do are really hard work, to be honest. And if they were hard work that you couldn't see that you were making a difference in, you wouldn't do them. So I think for me, that's what this is all about.
Yeah, great. I'm mesmerized. Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Yeah, and very, very kind of astute and relevant to Rugby Australia. But anyway, I think that's probably all I've got time for, Caroline. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll catch you later.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks. Bye. My pleasure.
All right. That was the interview with Caroline. Nathan, you had a little listen before. What do you think?
I think it was a really good chat. And I think, her talks about sort of rugby finding its, I think, Hafu, was it? The Japanese, anime, which sort of incorporates volleyball and how that, I generally reckon sevens can be that if it's done properly, as that sort of way of just getting sort of your casual fan involved back into rugby and then sort of, because we all know rugby's a drug that we just can't kick. And if sevens is like the perfect gateway drug, just to sort of get everyone sort of involved, understand the rules of it in a much more simplified way, and just sort of get people engaged from there. So I think she says, I think the point she made around that was actually really sort of interesting to listen from her perspective.
Yeah, fascinating as well. Maybe not fascinating because it seems so common sense, but you went straight to grassroots when I asked her about that. You got to do grassroots. And it's actually really funny. I'd really want to actually talk to her more and, kind of unpack why Rugby Australia or previous administrations haven't done that. John, I forgot his name, but the old CEO, just Wallabies first, build it and they will come. John O'Neill, yeah, build it and they will come, and that's clearly failed. So, yeah, fascinating, really. And I think netball in New South Wales is one of the highest participation sports. She said in the interview when she started, it's basically like a small room of 5 people, and now it's got 100 employees. So it can be done. I guess it just needs a little bit more patience and forward looking, and maybe between you and me, Nathan, maybe a few less former players and a bit more actual proper business people.
That's your words, not mine. My paycheck is paid by a couple of former players, so I'm gonna plead the fifth. But yes, her perspective of just sort of being that sort of outside voice around that, just it does make you think around what we should sort of look for in terms of a board setup heading forward.
Yeah, sorry to throw you under the bus there, Nathan. You're talking like a fan before, and I'm all confused. You dropped your professional facade. But yeah, no, it's great. I hope you guys really enjoyed listening to that chat. Hopefully it gives you food for thought too. Yeah, I guess if we go, that's all from me and you, Nathan. Unless you've got something else you want to add.
No, that's about it. I'd say we'll look forward to sort of the action kicking off again next Saturday. And yeah, let's hope sort of that one big win or that sort of big moment that I referenced at the start is sort of just right around the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everyone out there, keep watching the Olympics and comparing them to rugby in some way, shape or form. But yeah, great chat, Nathan. Thank you for coming on. And thanks everyone. And let's go the Wallabies.